Well, we finally got another Matrix sequel, one that we didn't really ask for, but we were surely excited to see when the trailer was revealed. Welcome back everyone to a new review, and here we have The Matrix Resurrections. Since this movie came out, there have been a lot of mixed reviews about it, from people loving it to others hating it, and all based on how they saw the first trilogy and how they liked or disliked it. And for me, there have been some parts that I liked about this one and some parts that I didn't really like. And a reminder as well that this review is going to be spoiler filled, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, I highly suggest that you save this video, watch the movie, and then come back so we can discuss the story around it and what we liked and didn't like in this one. To be honest, the premise of the movie story-wise started off good and kept on or stayed on a reasonable and steady pace. There were a few interesting concepts as well to the story, and the visuals were great for a good chunk of the time, but not always. At some point the movie was even cynical and was poking fun at itself in some parts. There's literally a line there about Warner Brothers making a fourth sequel of The Matrix that was said in this one. I like that little tongue-in-cheek reference. It kind of reminded me of Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where the actors or the characters in that movie were talking about their previous roles and the parts or the events that were happening in the previous movies, and then the events of those movies started again happening in their supposed reality in the new installment. To me, that was a good way to play around the track of the story and keep the viewers interested, speculating, and at the same time confused as well. In terms of the characters, here we have Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Ann, who make a comeback obviously for this one, and they're as good as they were before. There are no other actors, however, returning for this new sequel from the past films except for Jada Pinkett Smith, who returns as old Niobe, and now she is the leader for the new city of Io after, they just touched on kind of what happened between the Matrix Revolutions and the Matrix Resurrections, about what happened from Zion and how they moved to Io, and then the war between the machines happened and some of the machines sided with the humans. And she's the leader for this new city. And also we have Lambert Wilson, who is briefly and comedically back as the Merovingian. It was good at least to see some of these actors or characters coming back and reprising their roles and see how they progressed or regressed in this story. So as I said, Niobe is the new leader of the city of Io, and then the Merovingian is brought back or revealed as becoming an exile. Lawrence Fishburne is now back into this one to reprise the role of Morpheus, and to be honest, when I saw the trailers in the beginning, I was kind of upset that I didn't see him, or saw that they replaced him with Yahya Abdul-Mateen. And I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen. He has a good presence in most of the movie, all of the movies that I have seen, but I wanted to see Lawrence back when I saw the trailers in the beginning. Then when I saw the movie, I was actually happy that they did not bring Morpheus or bring Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus again. We only see kind of semi-cameo, if I can say that, of the old Morpheus. Apparently in the city of Io there's a statue of the old Morpheus, and it looks very much like Lawrence Fishburne. So at least when they changed him in this movie, they didn't just change the actor, they changed the character itself. And Morpheus in this one was not significant at all. He was not even as charismatic as we have known him to be. And I know, as I said, like, they didn't just change the actor, but they changed the character as well. So this new Morpheus was kind of, or apparently, a new model. He had a connection with the agents there, and in this story he didn't even contribute much to the story or even to the mission of Neo. He was just kind of there, shooting guns and trying to be cool, but failing in a way. Whatever Yahya Abdul-Mateen was trying to do with this character, it was just not successful at all. I did not like his version in this one. And another addition or change to one of the characters here is with Jonathan Groff, who plays Agent Smith this time. And with Jonathan Groff, even though he wasn't as strong Agent Smith this time, because he's not as strong as Hugo Weaving, because Hugo Weaving is Agent Smith, and the charisma, the presence that he had, no one can top that. But with Jonathan Groff, he actually added something. He did have a presence into the movie, and he did add something noticeable, if I might say, to the character of Smith. I don't know exactly what it is, but it was a good addition in a way. He kind of added his own touch to the story with his own style into the character. So with his performance, I didn't actually dislike it. He was actually good in it. But then when I finished the movie, I was thinking about him and Yahya Abdul-Mateen being the new additions to two of the most significant characters, and Jonathan Groff's performance was really good. He did not live up to Hugo Weaving's Agent Smith, but he added something noticeable there. Yahya Abdul-Mateen, on the other hand, he didn't really contribute much, and I think at some point he was trying to do too much, but kind of failed in a way. I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen so much, and I enjoyed his presence in all of the movies that I have seen or series that I have seen him in. But in this one, it just was not convincing for me. Now, for the sequences and visuals of the film, there are a few things that I couldn't stay on board with when I was watching the movie and kind of put me off from enjoying it. From the first scene, the action sequences were very fake and were very forced as well. The practical effects in the fight scenes were too obvious. You can easily imagine the actors being attached to strings, even though if you didn't see these strings. And to be honest, I know that this is the way that they shot the fight scenes in the previous parts, but at least the coordination of the movements looked way off in this part compared to the other trilogy. The fight scenes over there were a lot smoother. You can feel the punches, you can feel the fights, you can feel the movement. Everything was synchronized between the actors in a perfect way. In this one, it was just off so much. It was very forced and it just wasn't convincing. And the way they were moving when they were jumping off buildings or jumping higher, or someone even being thrown off across the room, there was something there that was just off. I don't know how to explain it, but it just didn't look organized well. It didn't look believable, or at least as cool as it was in the first trilogy. The only action sequence that I actually enjoyed and got me a little bit into the movie was the chase scene, where Trinity and Neo were on the motorcycle and then the humans or the bots were falling off or jumping off from their windows and trying to land on them. And I remember in that very moment I was thinking to myself, like, this is the first scene that I'm actually enjoying right now since the start of the movie. The CGI was also very bad, and as I said before, bad CGI just takes me off from the movie almost immediately. It just seemed like this sequel was not made with a big budget, you know, like the other previous parts, and not just the CGI, even the practical effects, as I said. Another thing that put me off as well, and I think this one was just as bad as, or even worse than the visual effects or the practical effects. At least the movie was watchable with that. But then the other part was the design of the machines. I don't know what it is, but I don't understand why do they have to exaggerate so much with the designs of the machines and make them look like, you know, bugs and fish and animals. Some of them even had human-like eyes. The old designs of the Sentinels, for example, even though I know they kind of looked like squids, but at least they were very machine-like, and they were more convincing when it comes to a movie about a war between humans and machines and the technology and advancements and how the designs would be like. They looked much more machine-like in the previous parts. But then for this one, the whole animalistic design for the machines, with some of them having almost proper eye pupils, and one of them even fist bumps the operator. At some point it felt like watching a sequel for Aquaman or Transformers or some comic superhero film. All of this just seemed way off from the original, and that really put me off at some point. It just didn't feel like a Matrix movie anymore. Also, a lot of the cuts and edits were too fast, random, and just seemed unprofessional compared to the first trilogy as well. And this movie was written by the same directors of the first one, but only directed by Lana Wachowski this time. So the aspects that threw me off in this movie were mainly the action set pieces, graphics, and visuals in general. Coming then to the story, and as I mentioned earlier, it started off with an interesting concept and it was quite entertaining as well. But then it moved from being a big story about saving humanity and freeing the minds of the people from the Matrix into kind of a love story of Neo getting Trinity back into his life. There were some expositions about the concept of the Matrix and talks about wanting to free people, but the main events and action was mostly focused on Neo and Trinity getting their relationship back together. And I kept an open mind with this one because I thought maybe this is setting up for a continuation later on, but so far the movie or the story wasn't that bad and it was actually enjoyable. There was just that scene in the end where Trinity can fly just like Neo, when they both jump off the building, and we would be thinking, okay, this is the time that Neo is supposed to fly, but then he couldn't, and this time it's Trinity who can fly. But there was no explanation to how that started or where she got that power from. It was just brought in as, okay, she's on the same level as Neo now. So basically they were both the center of the story this time, with the other characters kind of being there only helping out, apart from the character of Bugs, who was, I think, the most significant or the one who contributed the most to their mission or to the mission of Neo. I just think more effort should have been put into the action, the editing, and the practical effects, because they brought the movie down the most, I think, for me. So in the end, I kind of wanted to give this one 5 out of 10, obviously for the reasons that I just mentioned when it comes to the sequences, actions, and visuals. But I actually did like the story, and I liked the concept of it, and how it was a bit cynical and poking fun at itself, but still serious when it needs to be, delivering a somewhat satisfying story. So I would go with 6 out of 10. But I want to read from you guys what you thought about it. Did you like it fully or didn't like it, or were there some aspects that kind of liked in it and then others that brought down the level of entertainment for you? And what rating would you give it for yourself? And if there are any more points that you wanted to add about this movie, or wanted to highlight or discuss some of the aspects that I mentioned into this one, please drop them all in the comments below. I would very much love to read what you guys have to say about this one. And until I see you guys in the next video, thank you very much for watching. Have a splendid day and peace out.